Today I'm here with Khaled from Data Crafters. I was very fortunate to meet Khaled here. A year and a half ago, I showed up at FabCon. I'm breaking into the Microsoft ecosystem, and I ran into some old friends, and I said, "Hey, who do I need to meet at FabCon?" And three different folks said, "You have to talk to Khaled." You spent 30 minutes with me, gave me all these nuggets of knowledge, how to navigate the space. And here we are, 2 years later to talk shop. So I really appreciate you joining me.
My pleasure, man. But remember, there's something that you don't remember. The first time we spoke is actually more than 3 years ago. You are one of those people that helps people out as well. You don't remember, I was talking about something with Salesforce and whatnot. A good friend of ours, Shankar. Shankar
Right.
goes like, you need to talk to
Yes.
Ryan. So this is me and you having a phone call 3 years ago. You don't even remember. But again, see, we have amazing community and I love helping people from that perspective.
What I get to do day to day is talk to a lot of companies that are really starting their journey with Fabric and even in some cases Power BI. And a lot of them have adapted Tableau and have utilized Tableau for many, many years and have accumulated a ton of assets. And they're trying to figure out what does the path look like in this new world. And even myself, I'm learning. I'm always learning Fabric and trying to figure out the kind of the right solution for the problem, forgetting the tool and tech for a minute. So I think what I wanted to do was dig into a couple of these business cases that we run into, or use cases, where we find customers using this technology called Tableau Prep, right? This last mile of data preparation or ETL for analysts. And I wanted to see what is the path for some of these customers. So I'll give you a couple of these. So
Sure.
the first
And you'll just
one,
get my honest opinion. So I'll be honest, like what I really think about it. Remember my background, I was a finance director and IT could not solve my data requirements. So I went and built it. And no good deed goes unpunished. I got dragged into IT to be the chief data officer. But
well, so
so
so that taps right into the first one, right? Around this kind of analytics ready data preparation, right? You have your financial accounting system, basically across multiple systems of record potentially that you need to connect together and build a derivative that you can then build dashboards on top of. And so in the prep world, you would connect to your underlying databases, you would connect to your business app, you would do join, you would normalize, and then ultimately you would spit out one big table that then gets fed into your reports. But I know it's completely different on Fabric,
but
probably for
again, let's kind of step back. We
yeah.
don't even have to talk about Fabric, right? Uh, there are more tools in the market. There's Snowflake, there's Databricks, Fabric, and whatnot. There's a reason I love Fabric, why I use it daily and whatnot. And there are lots of scenarios where that's the best solution. Sometimes they're not. I mean, you might need Snowflake or Databricks to work with Fabric for some of the scenarios, right?
Interesting.
Multiple data sources is only going to increase. Tell me a company, even if it's a one-man shop, that has a single system.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
The second part is the need for dashboards or that insight everybody has. Think about this way, right? That is not the only problem you're solving. In today's world, you're running data science. Your machine learnings, your AIs need grounded data, right? You have operational needs. There's a concept called reverse. Your integrations are running and whatnot. Now, the old mindset, like if you think about the Tableau Prep, it is a tool probably that was great for a decade ago. Let me explain what I mean by that. Actually, more than that, it's been 13 years since Power Query came out. We could have done this in Excel and Power BI since 2013, right? It's a one way to solve a problem if the only problem you're solving is BI. So this is one thing I want people to understand. Like, do you need to prep your data? Yes. Do you need to bring data from many places? Yes. But in the old days where only problem you were solving was just one report, it made sense. but the amount of variety and the volume of it has significantly gone up. That is not going to cut it. And you can see that evolution happening with Power BI itself, right? Because Power BI is designed for sharing insights. It's not designed for sharing data itself, right? Which meant like all these other use cases, you have to redo the work for data science and all the other things you're doing. You're going to have to go redo the work again and again. It doesn't scale. You have the same customer table. Actually, we are talking about Tableau, forget. So Tableau is worse from this perspective because you don't even have a concept of a semantic model. But think about the same information gets processed 20 times over between 20 different reports. Let's just kind of think through that. If I'm just working with a flat table, even in Power BI, if I took the same structure, you should not even build Power BI that way today, right? We'll talk about that. But then the information, the insight, the logic. So this is my own experience 3 years ago before Fabric came out. We solved very complicated on-time delivery calculation logic alerts within Power BI and whatnot, and they needed to pull that into a database for other machine operations. We could not do that. They had to take our logic and recreate it again. So that is a construct that people need to understand, is that, you know, how having this many data sources is going to be true, and you're going to need reporting. That meshing of the Tableau Prep or whichever tool, even for Power Query, you cannot limit it to your front end only. You need to centralize that data in a way that works across. You need to have a central data store that is universal. So that if you need to use SQL, you can. If you need to use Python, you can. If you want to use Power Query, you can. If you want to use it from Databricks, you can. If you want to use it from Snowflake, think about this way. The Databricks Summit is happening this week. You can have Databricks land data straight into one lake, right? So the idea that core central data system, central data warehouse, we don't have to use, we hear fancy terms like data lakes. So think about, we used to have warehouses, right? And data lakes, then we got lake houses, and now we have data platform. At the end of the day, there's just storage, right? The two things is happening. Storage got cheap and it's becoming universal format. Means it's interoperable. You can use the right tool for it. And this is beyond for people that's trying to do, because otherwise they're going to do a migration from Tableau, and then they're going to do another migration because it did not fit their next need. They need to build a central data warehouse. That's a no common term. The data warehouse might be a lake house or whatnot, but what do you care? It's just a central data store. That's your verified data, unifies all the data for all of your use cases. So remember I said, you have many systems, you have reporting needs, but you actually have more than that. First insight. The second one is all of this should be supported by one central system. You should not have to recreate this central data warehouse. And the central data warehouse can be a medallion and all whatnot. But for users, you don't care. Like you want to use SQL, you should be able to. You want to use Python, you should be able to. You want to use Dataflow, you should be able to. That should be the testing people does when they build this central layer. And the final thing I want to mention on that side is that these things used to be only concept for Fortune 500 companies. That is no longer true. Regardless of how big or small you are, you need a central data warehouse. And it's affordable. The cost of implementation have gone down. The ownership has gone down. That's my philosophy. Simple foundational concept. You need to move that logic instead on a report level. You need to take it down to a central data layer level.
A big change for customers that are using Prep. They're trying to use basically what is effectively a pipeline of information to hold business logic, semantics, and transformation to then power just a single report or a single set of reports. So you're saying you have to move that back to the data, like to the actual data platform or repository.
Central data layer, right? I mean, like think about this. If you're going to do this in Power BI as well, right? Power BI has Power Query for the longest time. Can you do this in Power BI? 100%. And remember, Power Query has been developed for 13 years. It's a lot more developed than Tableau Prep. And It's in Excel, it's in Power BI, it's in Fabric, it's in Power Platform. The latest Gen 2 data, like data flows, are like 27 times faster than Gen 1 that can process petabytes worth of data.
So,
Right?
so if you did want to try to, for whatever reason, if you did have an edge case or a use case, you could use Power Query and or Gen 2 if you needed to build these flows.
There's nothing wrong with using Dataflow Gen 2, right? So like Dataflow, like Power Query, right? I would just put the data into the warehouse and then use the BI from there. Because yes, if it's like an extreme use case, yeah, like there, like remember, the more you become expert, it becomes depends.
Yeah.
Right? There are scenarios like, okay, I want to do this one thing that's not, the key is it gonna be used anywhere else? If not, just put it in the model, no problem. But that should not be the rule of thumb. There's a difference between exception versus rule of thumb. So you can use Tableau Prep, don't get me wrong. You can use Tableau Prep to centralize the data somewhere, but Tableau does not have a data platform.
And that's the key difference.
I don't know
right?
much about Tableau. You can probably tell me a little bit more about that, but
No, that's the key difference, right? Is rather than the destination being the reporting platform, the destination is your data platform. So that way you
I'm
can
pretty sure like Tableau
maximize.
Prep was designed because of to displace things like Alteryx and whatnot. So I'm pretty sure it's a pretty good tool. It's just that mindset does not scale today. Think about it, so you're going to be using that same customer logic. So think about this way. If you have 200 report that uses customer, you're going to have to apply that logic 200 times.
Yeah, that's a huge problem, which actually brings us to the next topic around semantic model. The semantics is kind of buried inside of these prep workflows. So yes, the data comes out maybe semantically correct, but semantic modeling is really the strength of Fabric. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about like that difference of reporting, like a semantic model that is report-centric versus Fabric where you're centralized and managing your semantic layer independent of your reports.
I want to come clean about this, right? I love Power BI semantic models, right? So so people should use this as a grain of salt, but I'll justify it in a second, right? Your reporting is going to become an edge case. I'll come back to it. This is a mindset before I started working. This is probably a 3-4 decade old mindset. Think about crystal reports, think about SSRS, right? The paginated reports and whatnot. So just for sales data, you're going to need 400 different. I have 400 different versions of the same query. One is by month, one is by year, because you're trying to fit what you're trying to report. And this concept is simple. This is a multi-dimensional, but the data in the databases are kept at a normalized layer, but which is not human normal, right? You have transaction here, there is the product here, the product category is there, and it's like a cascade of tables. We denormalize it, Tableau and Excel CSV file pivot tables. Tableau is literally a glorified pivot table. You have a single table worth of data. It means anytime you want to change analysis, you actually have to go change the table. That makes sense? You have this customer master data, but you have keep looking up every single column every single time you use it. So that's where the construct changed significantly. And let's be honest, right? I love Power BI semantic model. I do not like Power BI reports and visuals. They were not, it has changed significantly. It's night and day versus what used to be 5 years ago, right? It has gotten a lot better, but Tableau has better visuals. I mean, anybody can fight it, but that is the reality. But it's a lipstick on a pig. So Power BI, the reason it grew to the level it did is simply because of semantic model. It's because of its semantic engine. So as people are migrating from Tableau to Power BI, if you have 400 reports today and 400 Tableau preps, you're still going to end up with 400 reports. I have a separate opinion about that, but you're going to end up with 400 reports. But you should have one semantic model. You should not have 400 Tableau preps, Power Queries, or whatnot. You should figure this out, combine all the transformation, build the right semantic model. So if you're doing actual versus budget, versus a trend analysis should not be a different query. Should not have to be, right? This is where this is what we call star schema, where customer masters goes here, so that, remember we talked about earlier, right? That same customer table shows up in 200 different places. 200 reports has it. Why do you hit it 200 times? Just hit it once. Think about if you're hitting a source system that is a production database. The load on the system in the star schema versus the other way around, right? So if I create 400 models, I'm going to still hit it again. And that's the part as people have to do unlock from as they're transitioning from Tableau to Power BI, they should spend a lot more time building that semantic model. You know, the 400 reports, they should spend 80% of the effort building that one semantic model. That will power all 400, no problem. You don't have to spend like tiny bit of time each time.
Right? So the old, measure twice, cut once, right? Invest the time up front.
Yeah, so that's where the semantic model comes. And the beauty of the semantic model in Power BI, and this is Microsoft's advantage, once you build that semantic model, guess what? You don't even have to do export to Excel. Pivot table will connect straight to your semantic model. You might not need the 400 tables to start with. 400 reports, what I meant.
That's a great dovetail into the Excel mart scenario. What I mean by Excel mart is we see a number of Tableau Prep scenarios where users, customers, builders are extracting flat files, Excel files out of these systems of record as static snapshots, and then building these derivative data sets that is loaded directly into Tableau. So you really, you don't lose fidelity, but you lose control and understanding of what's in there. And what I'm hearing is because if you build your semantic layer correctly, you don't necessarily need to do the extraction and remix that extraction only to then build reporting.
Correct. So it solves the second problem, not the first one, right? Okay. I'll give you an example, right? So either you might be on SAP, like SAP is gloriously well known for tolling their data. You pay for the app, but you don't own your own data. Right? So a lot of people, even on SAP, just export the data from one of the tables. I think most people are going to start charging more for API because AI agents hit them pretty harder. So sometimes people are still going to go back to run this report, export it, and put it somewhere, and then we'll just take it from there. Unfortunately, that's not going to go away, and that's going to stay and whatnot. But that is your source systems. So you're dealing with these Excel files and CSVs, and the thing about it is, like, we still have a lot of old systems, right? Like, we have a customer that's on some system that runs on Visual Fox Pro. I did not know what that was. I had to Google it. The only system there's no connector that exists. The only way we connect to it is you run a batch process and it exports the files. So that problem is not going away, right?
So when that scenario happens where you do need flat files or you are getting data maybe from a third party, what does that flow now look like to get that into?
You still have to centralize the data. See, think about this way. You still have to centralize the data. If you can get to a scheduled export, right, that can be emailed to you or an FTP drive, that is as good as API extract. People make this mistake. Sometimes it's cheaper. If you do not need real-time feed, that is because all that means you need to centralize the data in a folder. That's it. If you want to keep it on hard drive on FTP, perfectly fine. If you can get it to SharePoint, even better. You can shortcut SharePoint data straight into Fabric, which means you can have it emailed to you every day or the service account. A Power Automate picks it up and stores it for you in SharePoint. And that SharePoint is shortcutted to Fabric Lakehouse, and your process is run. And we have shortcut on transform. The CSV and Excel will be converted into Delta Parquet near real time.
What do you use inside of Fabric to be able to like pull that in through SharePoint?
Dataflow. You can use Dataflow. Remember, you have the full ADF capability, but dealing with Excel files, CSVs are different, but dealing with Excel files, the strongest tool still to this day is Power Query. But there's something better than that. You might not have to use Power Query, if the data comes in CSV or standard Excel formats, we have a thing called transform on shortcut. You just attach your SharePoint folder to Fabric Lakehouse as shortcut and set up transform on shortcut. That means whenever the Excel file lands, Power Dataflow doesn't have to run. It checks periodically, and it will take that. If the data stays structured, it will convert that into Delta Parquet for you without you doing anything.
Well, that's cool.
Technology is moving faster. So this is the reason I said Excel file as a source is not going to go away, but you have to be intentional and structured about it. Right? We like it or not, we're going to get into either like a technology boundary or price boundary, because people will put a paywall, but they cannot put a paywall into export to Excel. I'll give you an example. My LinkedIn analytics, right? I'm all over the place in LinkedIn. I got to keep track of what the heck is going on. Now, the second part is like you do all this stuff and people put it, like the Tableau becomes glorified export to Excel. You don't never do that in Power BI. You got like essentially analyzing Excel, which is you click on insert, drop down. The favorite thing for most people, especially for finance and accounting, most people that use Excel is insert pivot table, right? If you notice, there's a drop down next to pivot table. It will tell you connect straight to Power BI semantic model. And guess what? Whatever you built is reusable. It refreshes with every time you open it and everything. And it's dynamic, moving and whatnot. You don't have to keep exporting and stuff like that. So that mindset should be changing. All right. So Excel's not going anywhere, right? And we have seen that. Funny enough, we are having the cloud and all that fun stuff, right? The reason I started using cloud, my mindset changed last year, was when I realized after 2 decades of finance experience, this thing was better than me in Excel.
Well, yeah, I said the same thing after 20 years of building dashboards, M365, Claude, all these tools are superior at kind of the descriptive statistics and composition.
Think about this. Why does it make a difference that I can format this Power BI report 10 different ways to make it look pretty? I know the solution that has to happen, and that's the new game we're in. See, Power BI reporting has limitations, but we have a lot of custom visuals and whatnot. But beyond that, we just got Rayfin for 2 weeks now. You can build your D3, React, and whatever, Vega, whatnot. You don't have any limitation.
Yeah, I think and we'll have to do a whole other session if you're up for it, just on Rayfin Fabric apps, because it's it's like a whole new door has opened up in terms of, okay, you go through the exercise of, moving off of Tableau Prep, you centralize, and so data and semantic model. Once you have that semantic model, yes, you can still build Power BI all day long, but kind of the world is your oyster at that point. In some cases, an existing category that you were trying to shoehorn into Tableau, now you open the door for a whole new world of application for analytics, for reporting, but for analytic-centric apps. So there's a lot to unpack.
Let me kind of give you my final thoughts on summarize. You have to centralize your data, whether there is ERP like SAP or QuickBooks or whatever system that you only can get Excel spreadsheet out. You need to become methodical about it instead of taking a one-off approach. You need to centralize your data wherever it's coming from. The second part is you should definitely have a semantic model. And especially for your customer that's making the migration from Tableau to Power BI and Fabric, right? They might be a good candidate to adopt Power BI's direct lake capability, which is only available in for Fabric customers, just not Power BI. The reason I say that is because if you're already centralizing the data, if you have a semantic model, there are different semantic models that you're going to end up creating. I was just talking about customer, but might be using the customer table that you have to refresh and all that stuff. Fabric gives you this performance almost as close to as import models with direct lake, which means the same customer table actually gets referenced. There's no concept of refresh. That's something people should look into, right? And then Power BI reports, you can do your own thing. And this final piece of the nugget, and I'll tell you my own story, right? See, I'm a big believer of eating your own dog food, right?
Or drinking your own champagne.
So from that perspective, Rayfin is going to be game changer, not only because it gives you the custom ability to create pages, visuals, and whatnot, because you're limited by your imagination. But it is secure, single sign-on, row-level security. Every one of this is honored. But let me give an example why Rayfin is interesting. So I built my first Rayfin app has my accounts receivable analysis. This is my real accounts receivable analysis, right? But I could have done that in Power BI. There's no limitation there. Power BI didn't. Actually, Power BI was better. Its interactivity is better than. The difference is this is a analytical app combined with the operational app. That means this app actually has a SQL database tied to it. And why does it matter? The reason it matters is because this accounts receivable app allows me to write comments at an invoice level, or a customer level, at a project level. It allows me to put notes in and whatnot. But again, it's just putting notes in. Why does it make a difference? Because I did not have an accounts receivable department 2 weeks ago. Now I have created a department and automated it. Because I have a set of skill that runs on Copilot cowork, right? It pulls the Power BI semantic model. And this is the beauty. Power BI semantic model, when you hit the semantic model, whether it's Excel, it's AI, data agents, operations agents, this thing is awesome because we didn't talk about data agents. For a RAG, you have to give it context. Power BI semantic model comes with it. The schema definition has the column definition, measure definition, table definitions, what you have to vectorize. Otherwise, bake right into it with AI instruction on how to read the model. The instructions, like the notes piece, now when Cowork runs every week at 9:30 Monday, it's pulling my synthesized information. It has the notes. So like I have already sent a note to this customer. Don't need to follow up on this customer till this time because they're going to pay so and so because they pay by check. So essentially, people need to think farther than just going from Tableau to Power BI. Most of our customers are sitting on an opportunity of their lifetime. They can actually deploy AI in production because the semantic layer of the model is the key to success. And that's the reason you cannot have 400 semantic models.
And that ambiguity is poison for AI. I mean, this is demonstrative of how you're kind of paving the way. Internally, you've already closed the loop on AI, BI, and then one step further, now you're activating it. It's the point of arrival for a lot of customers and why they're making this push into the Microsoft ecosystem. It's that opportunity to activate your data in this way. Really appreciate the time you sharing all this expertise and knowledge, and look forward to doing another one.
Let's do it. Thank you for having me.